IXL Section U.8, solve a system of equations using substitution. In our previous classes, we already went over how to solve a system of equation using graphing. You could also solve a system of equation using substitution. As you can see in the system of equations, we already have x by itself in one of the equations. In this bottom equation, x is already by itself. X is isolated. It says x equals 8. So if x equals 8, that gives me the answer for the x coordinate that's going to make both of these equations true. All right. Now I just need to find the y coordinate that will solve this system of equations. The way I'm going to do that is by substituting x equals 8 into the top equation here. Once I substitute x equals 8 where x is, that's going to allow me to solve for y and give me the number that I need to go right there so that I'll have my x and y coordinates that solve this system of equations. So now I just multiply negative 7 times 8 to get negative 56. And now I'm just going to use my algebra skills to solve for y. So I'm going to move negative 56 to the right by adding 56 to both sides. That's going to give me negative 10y equals 60. So y is going to equal 60 divided by negative 10. So y equals negative 6. And that's my answer. For my answer that solves this system of equation is 8, negative 6. Ya aprendimos cómo resolver un sistema de ecuaciones usando un gráfico. Ahora estamos aprendiendo cómo resolver un sistema de ecuaciones usando substitución. Aquí tenemos un sistema de ecuaciones que es cuando tienen dos o más ecuaciones y tenemos que encontrar qué valor de x y hacen este sistema de ecuaciones verdadero. En este caso ya tenemos x solo en un lado de la ecuación. Dice x es igual a 8. Así que eso me da mi primera respuesta y simplemente tengo que sustituir x igual a 8 en la otra ecuación para ahora solamente tener un variable y ahora solamente me falta resolver para ese variable, para y, y eso me da la respuesta para el coordinado de y. Así que esta es la solución de este sistema de ecuaciones. All right, let's look at the next example. Same type of thing where I already got y equal to 5. Okay, so first of all, that's the answer that goes right here for the y coordinate. Y equals 5. Esta es la respuesta para el coordinado de y. Now I'm just going to substitute that. I'm going to plug this in right here in this equation, on the bottom equation. So negative 10x plus 10 parentheses 5 equals 20, and this allows me to solve for x. Estoy sustituyendo y igual a 5 en esta ecuación para y eso ahora me deja resolver para x. So I'm going to have negative 10x, 10 times 5 is 50, equals 20. Now subtract 50 from both sides, and I get negative 10x equals negative 30. So x is going to equal negative 30 divided by negative 10. So x equals positive 3. And there's my answer, 3, 5. If I were to graph these two equations, they would intersect at the coordinate 3, 5. Okay, that's how all of this works. It's what we learned earlier. You could also solve this system of equation using graphing, but depending on the problem, it may be easier by using substitution, because this allows you to solve it without having to do graphs. Si yo hubiera hecho un gráfico de estas dos ecuaciones donde las dos líneas intersectan, sería este punto, 3,5. Yo podía haber encontrado la respuesta haciendo un gráfico de las dos líneas, pero usando substitución me deja encontrar la respuesta sin tener que hacer un gráfico. Pero se puede hacer de las dos maneras. La manera más fácil depende del problema y lo que te están preguntando. Se pueden usar las dos maneras. All right, next example. They're going to get tougher, all right? But the first couple of them, they already got one variable isolated for you. All right, so in this case, here's my answer for y equals 10. Now I just got to find out what is x going to be when y equals 10. I'm trying to find what is x when y equals 10. Estoy tratando de encontrar qué valor tiene x cuando y es igual a 10. All right, so I substitute 10 for y, and now I'm going to get 8x plus 60 equals negative 20. So 8x, I'm going to subtract 60 from both sides. Negative 20 minus 60 is negative 80. So x is going to equal negative 80 divided by 8. So x equals negative 10. And there's my answer. If I plug those two values in for x and y, that'll make this equation true. So again, this one already has one of the variables isolated, y equals negative 9, so that's part of my answer. And I'm going to plug that in for y and solve for x. Whoops, forgot to write the x. Actually, let me just write that better because that came out ugly. Negative 8x minus 4, negative 9 equals 20. And negative 9 is one of my answers. Okay, so negative 8x, negative 4 times negative 9 is positive 36. Now I subtract 36 from both sides. So negative 8x equals negative 16. X is going to equal negative 16 divided by negative 8. So x equals positive 2. Again, if you substitute those values for x and y into the system of equations, they make both equations true. Si sustituyemos esos valores para x y en las dos ecuaciones, hacen las dos ecuaciones verdadero. All right, now this is the first example where it doesn't have like y equals a number or x equals a number. All right, you're gonna do the same exact thing, but if you're new to this, you should pay attention to this example because this is the first one I'm gonna do like this. Okay. Este es el primer ejemplo que tenemos en esta lección donde no tenemos x igual a un número o y igual a un número, así que deben poner atención a este ejemplo. All right, so there's more than one way to do it, but basically, if y equals negative x minus 5, and on the bottom it's saying y equals x plus 7, I could just take all of this and put it right here where y is. So I'll have x plus 7 equals negative x minus 5. Okay, again, I just took what it says on the bottom, y equals x plus 7, and I'm putting it right there where that y is. So it'll say x plus 7 equals negative x minus 5. You could have also thought about it as y equals negative x minus 5, and let's write that here. It means the same thing, but basically, you're going to end up with this equation. This will allow me to solve for x. All right? Before I continue, let me say that in Spanish. Okay, lo que hice en la ecuación de arriba dice y igual a negativo x menos 5. Ahora, abajo dice que y es igual a x más 7, así que puedo coger x más 7 y sustituir esa expresión donde está y. Ok, si lo pongo aquí donde está y o aquí, entonces la ecuación dice x más 7 igual a negativo x menos 5. Y ahora esta ecuación me deja resolver para x. Alright, so let me solve for x. If I move this x to the left by adding it to both sides, I'll have 2x equals, let's move this 7 to the right by subtracting it from both sides. 2x equals negative 12. So x equals negative 12 divided by 2. So x equals negative 6. Alright, that's the first part of my answer. I still got to find out what's y. Okay, esa es la primera parte de mi respuesta y ahora tengo que encontrar qué valor tiene y. So x equals negative 6. I'm going to erase everything. X equals negative 6. Okay, now I'm going to take this value of x and put it wherever, in whatever equation you think will be easier. I think it'll be easier on the bottom one. All right, so if I substitute that value of x in the bottom equation, it'll say y equals negative 6 plus 7 You could do that mental math just looking at it. So y is going to equal positive 1, and that's my answer. If I would have plugged it into the top, you get the same answer. All right? Lo que hice es sustituir la primera respuesta que cogí para x, que es negativo 6. Lo puedo sustituir en cualquiera de las dos ecuaciones para encontrar el valor de y. Las dos ecuaciones me van a dar la misma respuesta. Yo la puse en la ecuación de abajo porque no tenía el signo negativo y luce un poco más fácil. Así que si lo pongo aquí abajo para x, la ecuación dice y igual a negativo 6 más 7. Así que y es igual a 1. Y ahora tengo mi respuesta, mi coordinado para x y y. Alright, that gives me my x and y coordinates. Let's look at another one. Alright, so same thing. I'm going to get, since y equals 8x minus 3, I could just substitute all this right here. Or I could substitute this one right here. It's going to end up saying pretty much the same thing either way. Alright, 10x minus 5 equals 8x minus 3. Okay, puedo pensar que estoy sustituyendo 8x menos 3 para esta y aquí, porque dice aquí que y es igual a esta expresión. O lo pueden pensar que estamos poniendo 10x menos 5 aquí para esta y. Voy a terminar los dos básicamente diciendo la misma cosa. Alright, so now I'm going to solve for x. Ahora voy a resolver para x. Subtract 8x, and I'm going to get 2x equals, let's move the minus 5 to the right by adding 5. Alright, so 2x equals 2, so x equals 2 divided by 2, so x equals 1. That's the first part of my answer. Esa es la primera parte de mi respuesta. X igual a 1. So now, x equals 1. So now I could plug it into either equation to solve for y. Let's put it on the top one. Okay, x igual a 1 lo puedo sustituir en cualquiera de las dos ecuaciones. Lo estoy sustituyendo en la de arriba. Hold up, I messed up. Y equals 8. Okay, so again, you could do this mental math. Esto se puede hacer en la mente. Se debe hacer en la mente. So y equals 8 minus 3, y equals 5. That's my answer. Okay, basically the rest of the problems are all going to be like what we just did. They just may get a little bit more work involved, but the same exact concept. Okay, so let's look at this one. All right, this one I have no variable by itself. All right, so let's look at the top equation. I gotta first, there's one more step involved in this one from my previous examples. In this one, I first gotta get y by itself. I could also do it with x, but since the y doesn't have a number in front of it, it doesn't have a coefficient there, I'm gonna get y by itself because that looks like the least amount of work. So let's move 2x to the right. So y is going to equal negative 2x plus 6. Now I could take y equals, okay, so now I'm going to take that and substitute it in the bottom equation right here where this y is. So on the top I got y equals negative 2x plus 6, and now I'm going to plug that in right here. So it'll be 7x plus, let me just write this. 7x plus negative 2x plus 6. That may make it look complicated. I'll simplify it right now. But I just want you to see that for this y, I'm just plugging in this entire expression right here. Now when I distribute that plus sign, it'll basically become 7x minus 2x plus 6 equals negative 4. 7x minus 2x is 5x. So now I got 5x plus 6 equals negative 4. I move this 6 to the right and subtract. So now I have 5x equals negative 10. So x is going to equal negative 10 divided by 5. So x equals negative 2. And if anybody's lost, I'll repeat real quick. All right, on the top, I could have done it with the bottom one as well, but with the top equation, I first solved for y temporarily because I don't know what number y is yet. All I did is get y by itself on the top equation. So y equals negative 2x plus 6. That allows me to then substitute this expression right here where this y is. So it's going to be 7x plus all this expression equals negative 4. When I simplify, I didn't need to write all that, but just that's the proper way to write it. When I distribute the plus sign, I'm going to have 7x minus 2x plus 6 equals negative 4. Now you just use basic algebra, combine like terms. 7x minus 2x is 5x. And we solve for x in this equation. X equals negative 2. And now I'm going to use that to solve for y in one of the other equations. All right. Así que en la primera ecuación tuve que primero resolver para y. Así que en la ecuación de arriba resolví para y es igual a negativo 2x más 6. Y ahora puedo sustituir esa expresión completa en la ecuación de abajo donde está y. Así que 7x más, y dentro de paréntesis está esta expresión. Cuando distribuyo el signo de sumar o el signo positivo, me va a decir 7x menos 2x más 6 es igual a negativo 4. Y ahora puedo resolver para x es igual a negativo 2. Y voy a usar eso para resolver para y ahora. So x equals negative 2. I shouldn't have erased something, but whatever. Let me just put it back. Okay, so now here where you had first solved for y, you could plug in the x. All right, so y is going to equal negative 2 parentheses negative 2 plus 6. So y is going to equal positive 4 plus 6. So y is going to equal 10. All right, let me do another example. Okay, so again on this one, I already have y isolated. So let's take this expression right here, the negative x plus 1, and plug it in right here for y. So that it'll say negative x plus 1 equals negative 3x minus 9. All right, so let me first solve for x. I move the negative 3x to the left and add it, which gives me 2x equals, I'm going to move the plus 1 to the right by subtracting. So 2x equals negative 10. So x equals negative 10 divided by 2. So x equals negative 5. Now, let me change colors here a second. Okay, now, if x equals negative 5, I could plug it into either one of these equations to solve for y. Let me put it in the top equation. Si x es igual a negativo 5, lo puedo sustituir en cualquiera de las dos ecuaciones para resolver para y. Lo estoy poniendo en la ecuación de arriba. So, negative 5 plus 1. The two negatives become a positive, so y equals 5 plus 1. So y equals 6. You should do that mental math. And there's my answer. That's the solution to this system of equations. Ahí tengo mi solución a este sistema de ecuaciones. All right, now if you look at this one, I got to get either x or y isolated to begin with. Since I see this y right here with no coefficient in front of it, I'm going to get that y isolated because that looks like the easiest one to start with to me. All right, so all I got to do is move the 2x to the right and it becomes negative. So y equals negative 2x minus 20. Now I can take this expression and plug it into the bottom equation. So it'll say negative 3x plus 8 times negative 2x minus 20 equals 11. All right, again, what I did is on the top equation, I got y by itself on one side of the equation by moving 2x to the right. That made the top equation y equals negative 2x plus minus, let me say that again, y equals negative 2x minus 20. That allows me to substitute this expression, negative 2x minus 20, for y right here in the bottom equation. Okay, en la ecuación de arriba resolví para y es igual a negativo 2x menos 20, y eso me deja ahora sustituir esta expresión para y en la ecuación de abajo aquí. All right, now I'm going to do the distributive property. So negative 3x minus 16x minus 160 equals 11. Combine like terms. Negative 3x minus 16x is negative 19x minus 160 equals 11. Now I'm going to move the minus 160 to the right by adding it. I didn't really line that up, but you get the idea. So negative 19x equals 171. So x is going to equal 171 divided by negative 19. So x is going to equal negative 9. And in case you're wondering, I do not have that memorized. When I took this picture earlier, I used my calculator, and I just remembered the answer, okay? Just being honest. Just I don't want anybody to think I have that memorized, because I don't. All right, so x equals negative 9, okay? Now I'm going to substitute. Now you substitute x equals negative 9 into whatever equation you want and solve for y. Look, the easiest way to do it is you already have right here y isolated. So if you just plug in the negative 9 right here, you could do the rest mental math. You should be able to do the rest mental math, okay? Como ya tenemos esta ecuación donde y está sola, okay, pues eso sería la manera más rápido y fácil de resolver para y. Si ahora sustituyo x igual a negativo 9 dentro de esta ecuación, y lo deben poder hacer en la mente. Yo lo voy a escribir por si alguien lo necesita. All right, so y is going to equal negative 2 times negative 9 minus 20. So y equals negative 2 times negative 9 is positive 18 minus 20. So y equals negative 2. And there's my answer. Okay, I'm gonna do one more like this, and then I'm gonna go to like 3 from the challenge zone that are basically the same thing, just maybe a little bit more work involved, but basically the same thing. All right, so in these, y is already isolated. So again, let's take this x plus 6 and put it right there where y is, okay? Como ya y está sola en las dos ecuaciones, voy a coger esta expresión x más 6 y sustituirlo para esta y. So x plus 6 equals 5x minus 10. Now I'm going to solve for x. I'm going to move this x to the right by subtracting, and I'm going to get 4x, and minus 10 to the left by adding. So 4x equals 16, so x equals 16 divided by 4, so x is going to equal 4. X equals 4. That's the first part of my answer. Now look, mental math, just plug it in right there and do 4 plus 6. Y equals x plus 6. So if x is 4, put the 4 right there. Y equals 4 plus 6. So y is going to be 10. Okay, si x es 4, lo puedo sustituir dentro para esa x ahí y hacerlo en la mente. Y igual a 4 más 6. Y es igual a 10. Okay, so let me do this one. No, actually, let me jump to this slide. All right, let's go with this one. All right. So again, there's more than one way to do it. Let's look at the top equation. All right, on the top equation, let's say you want to solve for x in the top equation, okay? Vamos a decir que en la ecuación de arriba que queremos resolver para x. All right, so I got this. All right, so let's move the 7y to the right by subtracting it. Voy a mover 7y para la derecha, el lado derecha de la ecuación y restar. So that's going to give me negative x equals negative 7y minus 11. Now to get rid of this negative sign, imagine there's a negative 1 here. And you're going to move it and divide everything on that side by a negative 1. So that would be x equals negative 7 divided by negative 1y minus 11 divided by negative 1. Basically, these two negatives are going to become positives. So x equals 7y plus 11. You could also think about it as just When this goes to the other side, it becomes positive, and when this goes to the other side, it becomes positive. So anyways, x equals 7y plus 11, and now I could plug in this, I could substitute this expression in the bottom equation. All right. Ya ahí resolví para x y ahora puedo sustituir esta expresión para x en la ecuación de abajo. So negative 8 parentheses 7y plus 11 plus 8y equals 8. So now I do the distributive property, and I'm going to have negative 56y minus 88 plus 8y equals 8. Combine like terms, negative 56y plus 8y is going to be negative 48y. And this negative 88, we move it to the right by adding 8 plus 88, which is going to give me 96. So y is going to equal 96 divided by negative 48, which means y equals negative 2. Okay, now I'm going to substitute y equals negative 2 into whichever equation I want. But again, use the work you already did. If I look at the work I already did, right here I got x isolated. So that one's all set up for me to just put y equals negative 2 right there and solve for x, since I already got x isolated. Okay, usen el trabajo que ya hicieron. Si ya tengo aquí esta ecuación con x sola, entonces es bien fácil sustituir y igual a negativo 2 dentro de esta ecuación para resolver para x. So x equals, where can I write it? Let me write it over here. X equals 7 times negative 2 plus 11. So x equals negative 14 plus 11. So x equals negative 3. Así que x es igual a negativo 3. This example is from the challenge zone. It's basically the same thing we've been doing, just maybe a little bit more moving around. I'm going to do 2 more like this one. Or maybe 3 more. I have a little bit of word of advice. If when you're doing these, if there's any of them that are giving you a hard time, just try substituting for a different variable. All right, let me show you what I mean. On this one, if I start off by substituting, if I start off by trying to isolate this variable, this x, okay, I end up getting fractions. I'll end up getting the right answer, but you end up getting a fraction, and it's kind of difficult. So if when you're doing one of these, you're having a really tough time, try starting again using a different variable or a different equation. And when you use different variables, sometimes it makes the problem easier, because I just noticed that on this question. I'm going to do this one the hard way just to show you how to do it in case you end up in that situation. But I'm just letting you know that you could try, if you're having a really hard time, just switch and try to start the problem differently. Like for example, instead of trying to start by isolating this variable, you could start with this one down here, or this one down here, or this one over here, and you may find the problem a lot easier that way. Si encuentran un problema que es difícil, o le está dando fracciones o números muy difíciles, o hicieron un error, lo que pueden hacer es empezar de nuevo tratando de una manera diferente. Por ejemplo, empezando con tratando de coger un variable diferente solo. Porque esta, le voy a enseñar cómo yo lo empecé y me da fracciones. Al final termina con la misma respuesta. Pero era un poco difícil de esta manera que la hice. Okay, so if I start off by trying to solve for this x right here, all right, I'm going to have negative 7x equals, I'm going to move this minus 6y to the right, and it becomes positive. Okay, now I divide by negative 7. Everything on the right divided by negative 7, and you're going to get negative 6 over 7y plus 14 divided by negative 7, which is going to give me negative 2. So x equals negative 6 over 7y minus 2. Okay, now, see, I got a fraction there. Okay, I'm going to just use it that way. But some of you may not like that. Alright, así que ahora tengo una fracción y lo voy a hacer de esa manera. Al final me da la misma respuesta. Y voy a sustituir esta expresión en la otra ecuación aquí donde está x. Okay, so when I substitute that for x, I'm going to have 6 times negative 6 over 7y minus 2 plus 6y equals negative 18. Now I'm going to do the distributive property. And that's going to give me negative 36 over 7y minus 12 plus, okay, I'm running out of space. Let me tell you what I'm going to do to save space, okay? Right here, this 6y, I'm going to change it to a fraction equivalent to 6y, but that has a 7 on the bottom. So I'm going to change the top to 42. 42 divided by 7 equals 6. So this fraction is equivalent to 6. This will allow me to combine it with this fraction over here. Okay, so negative 36 over 7y plus 42 over 7y is going to equal 6 over 7y. And this minus 12, I'm going to move it to the right and add it. So negative 18 plus 12 is going to give me negative 6. Okay, now to get rid of this fraction, I've said this earlier in the year, and it's a really helpful tip in case you forgot, but the easiest way to get rid of that fraction is by multiplying both sides by the reciprocal. 7 over 6 and 7 over 6. So on the left side, this cancels out because this will give you 1. And on the right side, you'll get these 6's cancel out, so y is going to equal negative 7. Again, if you would have tried it a different way with isolating one of the other variables, you could have avoided fractions altogether. But I'm just showing you that if you get fractions, you could still do it that way and get the same answer. Okay, now I'm just going to plug in that y equals negative 7 right here. All right, let me try a different color because this is getting confusing. All right, so if I plug in the negative 7 right there for y, I'm going to have x equals negative 6 over 7 times negative 7 minus 2. Right here, the 7's cancel out. So negative 6 times negative 1 is positive 6. If that confuses you, you could have thought about this as negative 6 over 7 times negative 7, which is positive 42 over 7, and 42 divided by 7 is 6. So 6 minus 2 is 4, so x equals 4. And those are my answers. X equals 4 and y equals negative 7. Again, if you're doing this and you get a fraction and you don't want to deal with them, you could try to avoid them by trying a different variable. But fractions are a part of math, so you need to know how to deal with them when you get them. All right, let's look at this example. So on the top, let me just to stay consistent, I'm going to solve for x just to keep it the same. So I'm going to move the 2y to the right and it's going to become negative. So negative 4x equals negative 2y minus 6. Now I'm going to move the negative 4 and divide. So x equals negative 2 over negative 4y minus 6 over negative 4. So x is going to equal, this is going to be 1/2 when I simplify it, 1/2 y. And this is going to be positive 3 over 2 when I simplify it. So now I got more fractions. All right, so now I'm going to substitute this expression for x on the bottom equation. So in the bottom equation, okay, I'm going to have negative 9 parentheses 1/2 y plus 3 over 2. It may be that in the challenge zone you got to deal with fractions. So you're going to have to know how to do this. Okay, así que aquí tengo fracciones y es posible que en las últimas preguntas te exigen que tenga que resolver el problema con fracciones, porque aquí tengo hasta más fracciones. Así que ahora voy a sustituir esta expresión para x en la ecuación de abajo. All right, so here I'm gonna do the distributive property. and multiply. Negative 9 times each term here. Okay, on the front, I'm going to get negative 9 over 2y minus 27 over 2 plus 2y. Okay, now the 2y, I want to be able to combine it with this y that has a fraction with a 2 on the bottom. So 2y, I'm going to rewrite it as 4 over 2y. Why did I do that? Because 4 over 2 is equivalent to 2. And now I can combine it with this fraction over here. And I need to save space here. So negative 9 over 2y plus 4 over 2y is negative 5 over 2y. Okay, and this negative 27 over 2, I'm going to move it to the other side. And I'm going to combine it with this 9, but let me first change this 9 to have a 2 on the bottom. So I'll change it to 18 over 2, because 18 divided by 2 is 9. So now I can combine it. That's a 2 on the bottom. Now I can combine it with the 27 over 2. Ok, cambié el 9 a 18 sobre 2 para poder combinarlo o sumarlo con esta fracción 27 sobre 2. 18 sobre 2 es equivalente a 9 porque 18 dividido por 2 me da 9. Alright, so when I combine them, I'm going to get 45 over 2. Okay, so negative 5 over 2y equals 45 over 2. Okay, now to get rid of that negative 5 over 2, I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of negative 5 over 2, which is negative 2 over 5. Hold on. There we go. What did I write? Alright, that's a 5. Para quitar esta fracción voy a multiplicar los dos lados de la ecuación por el recíproco de negativo 5 sobre 2, que sería negativo 2 sobre 5. Okay, when I do that, on the left, this will cancel out, and I'll just have y equals. On the right, the 2's cancel out, and I'll have negative 45 over 5. Negative 45 over 5, which when I simplify it is negative 9. Yeah, that's a lot of work, but that's life. Alright, so y equals negative 9. Y es igual a negativo 9. Now I could substitute y equals negative 9 in this fraction and to solve for x, okay? I'm sorry, in this equation. I'm going to substitute y equals negative 9 into this equation to solve for x. Voy a sustituir y igual a negativo 9 dentro de esta ecuación para resolver para x. When I do that, let me write it over here. I'm going to have x equals 1/2 times negative 9 plus 3 over 2. That's going to give me x equals negative 9 over 2 plus 3 over 2. That's going to give me x equals negative 6 over 2. So x equals negative 3. So as you can see, these problems near the end are pretty, they require a lot of work. Especially they require you to know fractions. Again, if you're welcome to try, you may be able to avoid fractions by trying a different variable to start with, but you may not be able to avoid them, okay? I'm going to do one last example. So on the top, let's try isolating y on the top instead of x. Let's see if that'll make my life easier or not. Okay, vamos a tratar resolviendo para y en la ecuación de arriba. Alright, so I'm going to move negative 9x to the right by adding 9x to both sides. When I do that, I'm going to get 7y equals 9x plus 9. Now I'm going to have a fraction here again. So y equals 9 over 7x plus 9 over 7. Ok, así que hasta arriba también me da, de esta manera también cojo una fracción, así que creo que no pueden evitar tener que trabajar con fracciones. Alright, now I'm going to substitute this expression for the bottom equation right here. Ok, voy a sustituir esa expresión para la ecuación que está abajo. And I'm going to have negative 9x plus 8 parentheses 9 over 7x plus 9 over 7 equals 18. So when I do the distributive property, I'm going to have negative 9x plus 72 over 7x plus 72 over 7 equals 18. Okay, now to combine these two x's, I got to change the negative 9 to a fraction to an equivalent fraction that has a 7 on the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to think what number divided by 7 equals negative 9? That would be negative 63. Negative 63 divided by 7 will give you negative 9. So that's an equivalent fraction. Negativo 63 dividido por 7 me da negativo 9. Ok, así que esta fracción es equivalente a negativo 9. Okay, so, and that'll allow me to combine it with this fraction right here, 72 over 7x. Okay, ahora puedo combinar estas dos fracciones. Okay, so when I combine them, I'm going to have 9 over 7x plus 72 over 7 equals, I'm running out of space, so I'm going to change 18 to have a 7 on the bottom to an equivalent fraction that has 7 on the bottom. So what number divided by 7 equals 18? All right, to find that out, just multiply 18 by 7. All right, 18 times 7 is going to give you 136. 18 times 7 is going to give you, wait, did I make a mistake? Let me think. 18 times 7, okay, 5. Yeah, I did make a mistake. I'm sorry, 126, 126. All right, 18 por 7 me da 126. Así que 126 dividido por 7 me da 18. Okay, so that will allow me to now move the 72 over 7 to the right and subtract. I'm sure this is really exciting to watch. Okay, so I'm going to do 126 over 7 minus 72 over 7. All right, so that's going to give me 9 over 7x equals 54 over 7. 54 over 7, all right? So now, use the same technique. To get rid of that 9 over 7, multiply both sides by its reciprocal. Para quitar el 9 sobre 7, voy a multiplicar los dos lados de la ecuación por el recíproco, 7 sobre 9. Okay, on the left, this will cancel out because you get positive 1. On the right, the 7s cancel out. And 54 divided by 9 is going to equal 6. So x equals 6. Okay, aquí las fracciones se cancelan porque te dan positivo 1. Y en este lado los 7 se cancelan y 54 dividido por 9 me da 6. So x equals 6. And now I can plug in that 6 right here to solve for y. Okay, voy a sustituir este 6 aquí para resolver para y. When I do that, let me try to do it up here. Running out of space. All right, so y equals 9 over 7 times 6 plus 9 over 7. We're almost done. Okay, 9 times 6 is 54. And 54 divided by, did I make a mistake? Let me think. 9 times 6 is 54. No, I'm sorry. You can't divide it. 9 times 6 is 54 over 7. Plus 9 over 7. So now I add those two fractions. 54 plus 9 is 63. And I got a 7 on the bottom. And 63 divided by 7 equals 9. So y equals 9. And now I'm done with this problem. So there's my solution to this system of equations. 6, 9. When you plug in 6 for x and 9 for y, it makes both equations true. Cuando sustituyo 6 para x y 9 para Y, hace las dos ecuaciones verdaderos. Again, I'm sure there may be a way to solve this without having to deal with fractions, but you're gonna have to be, guessing, trying different variables. The best bet is to just pick one and deal with the fractions. Okay, because from what I could tell, it looks like you're gonna have to deal with fractions, especially when you get to the challenge zone. And like I said, fractions are a part of math, and you need to get good at fractions if you want to be good at math. If you don't learn fractions, you're always going to be struggling with math. Okay. En los últimos problemas no creo que pueden evitar tener que hacer problemas con fracciones. Tienen que saber cómo usar fracciones porque siempre salen en matemáticas. Y si no saben cómo usar fracciones, siempre van a tener problemas con matemáticas. All right. Keep in mind, you should have learned fractions already, guys, in middle school. This should be a review of fractions, not a brand new lesson in fractions. Okay. All right, guys. So that concludes this lesson. Again, the IXL assignment is IXL Section U.8. Solve a system of equations using substitution. It's due by 6 a.m. the next day that you have my class. Remember, you got to get up to 100 points. All right. All right, guys. So that concludes this lesson. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next class.